Hello and welcome. You're watching us on NewsX and NewsX YouTube. India is heading to the moon. The first ever moon landing to be done by ISRO. It's going to take a few days for it to happen. But the larger leap that has already taken place is going to send reverberations right across the globe. Just a few weeks ago, again for the first time ever, in Mission Shakti, one of our ISRO operations, we proved to the world that we had the capability to actually strike down a satellite in space. Immediately afterwards, the good scientists at NASA were lecturing us that, oh my God, you shouldn't be doing this. You're creating space debris. The International Space Station will get affected. You Indians, obviously implied, don't know what you're doing in space. Within days, of course, under pressure, they withdrew that criticism. NASA in the past has praised the work India has done on the moon because Chandrayaan-1 found the first scientific traces of water crystalline particles, ice particles on the dark side of the moon. This Chandrayaan is actually going to land a rover. But in the end, for the Western world that looks at us as a third world country just a few days ago telling us you're too poor to go to space. If you all remember the infamous New York Times cartoon, which we referred to several times in the past few days, of making cow jokes on Indians who want to go to space, is there something called space racism? And if it is, how do we crack it? Let's have that conversation quickly. On the broadcast with me, former DRDO scientist Ravi Gupta joining us, SK Dhaka, also former DRDO scientist Sri Iyer is joining us via Skype, Radhika Kapoor is also joining us, Sapna Bisht, a space researcher, and Group Captain VN Jha also with us. So let me quickly open up this conversation because it is very, very important for us to discuss what we now do to send out a message to the globe and which world powers, even the friendly ones, don't really want us to see and be successful because they're afraid of a rising India. Let's have that conversation. Sir, if I can begin with you. You must have seen, sir, that NY Times famous cartoon. We're going to put that on your screens where they show a man with a cow trying to enter the space club. This is how the Western world sees India, like it or not. Sir, please go ahead.
Okay. See, we need not bother about what these people or the Western world has been saying about us because they are not able to understand our psyche. Our space program, our defense program, our all other scientific programs have been different, quite different from the Western world because the way we think, the way we behave is entirely different. We are not materialistic people. We have been the spiritual people. They have been calling us developed, underdeveloped and developing nation, but they forget that in terms of spirituality, in terms of well-being of our people, we have been developed long ago.
No, but it's a very paternalistic attitude, right? When we did Mission Shakti and we blew up that satellite in space, what was NASA's first reaction? They're telling us, oh my God, you created space debris. Now, how much space debris has NASA created over the course of the past 60, 70 years, sir?
The problem is that they think that they are superior. If you look at their space programs, when the US began or the Russia began or whichever country, their aim was different. Their primary aim was not to explore the science, get to the science, but to exert their supremacy over the rest of the world. And in the competition, lot many problems were created. Lot of debris, if you are talking about debris, they have created huge amount of debris, which is what our Mission Shakti developed by DRDO.
No, but the same thing happened during the nuclear program, sir, if you remember, right? How many nuclear tests that the Soviet Union did, that the Americans did, the British did, the French did, it wasn't a problem. They blew up entire islands. They did nuclear tests out in the sea. That wasn't a problem. Then when we wanted to do nuclear tests, they said, no, very bad sanctions against you. Now we are heading to space. When we demolish a satellite, no, very bad, you're creating debris. The reality is that they're afraid. They don't want India landing on the moon because that means we are self-sufficient. Now, how do we break this space racism, sir? With what can we do?
See, the basic thing is that we have to be strong. When you are strong, the world listens to you. When you are strong, the world looks at you with different spectacles. So, we should not be trying to look at ourselves with the kind of spectacles these people have been providing us. We have to look at ourselves as we are the people who care for our people. We go to moon,
And how many of
not
us,
for exerting supremacy.
and how many of our scientists work for NASA, Indian origin scientists,
Yes.
work in the CERN project in Geneva. Some of the best brains in the world comes from India. Group Captain V.N. Jha, I just take you back a few weeks, sir, of NASA lecturing us about creating space debris. And we know how much space debris they've created over the past 60 years of being in space. Now, when we are reaching a position where over the next few days we're going to be landing a vehicle on the moon, and fingers crossed it all goes off successfully, it will be a huge leap forward. And even if we come close, it'll be a huge leap forward. Now, for these Westerners who for years and decades have treated us like third world, why can't they wake up from their stupor?
Well, whenever anyone is trying to climb a stairs, there is a normal tendency to for the others to try and pull down. Now, as far as the Mission Shakti was concerned, it was the India's interest, and that is how it had conducted. Later on, the international community came through that we have created the space debris. Obviously, there will be space debris, and that was of our own satellite which was destroyed there in the space. But when someone started talking, very silly things that International Space Station is threatened. How? Our satellite was shot down at 300 kilometers, and the International Space Station is at 350 to 400 kilometers. So how, after being shot down, the debris can fly high? No, it will never happen. After being shot down, anything that is there in the space
will logically fall back to Earth.
It will only decelerate and will be pulled by the Earth's gravity and will come down. So absolutely, there were, very jittery, panic reactions. International space agencies, international crowd, who didn't want India to
Group
succeed
Captain,
that way.
let's come to the truth. Let's come out to the truth. Let's be honest, sir, that there are many people sitting, at the Kennedy Space Center or the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or in Europe or even in Russia, sir, and they are hoping that we fail. They're hoping that this rocket blows up or it never comes to the moon, so then they can smile and then give us gyan.
No, well, you may be right there, but as far as I remember, when the space program was there, especially the lunar program, Chandrayaan and the Mangalyaan, lot of NASA also came forward. There was a very good relation between the Indian government and the US government. So NASA also had come forward to render some small know-how to us and take some know-how from us also, because Mangalyaan was something what Indian minds, Indian brains had created.
And again, the reality. Okay, let me just quickly come back to you, sir, and let me quickly get both Sapna and Radhika into this conversation as they're joining us. But Group Captain Jha, just one thought, if you can just help us address. When we are talking about reality checks for now India heading forward, when we have to break out of this mold of Western space racism, what is it that we need to do? Because success tells its own story, and the reality is ISRO does it cheaper and better than anywhere else in the world. The space program, the US is running short of money. They're looking to other people and they desperately need us at the same time.
Well, let us take one small poem from the Sanskrit, very old Sanskrit shloka. Namanti phalino vrikshah, namanti gunino janah, shushka vrikshascha, murkhascha, na namanti kadachana. Look, we are now those fruitful tree. So let's not react. Let us have our own way. Let us be polite. Whatever international people are saying, international community is saying, well, listen to them. If there is something worthy to do, fine, do it. Otherwise, it is our own interest. It was the interest of India to have that Shakti into our hand, and we achieved that. It was in the interest of India to have nuclear weapon, nuclear arsenal.
And we did it. Okay. Okay. Let me quickly open Radhika Kapoor. Radhika Kapoor, just stay with me, Group Captain Jha. Radhika Kapoor, now here's a reality check, right?
Right.
And as a person who's been working in a field dealing with science, I'm sure you faced it also. That these are the all-know-it paternalistic attitude of the West, and they need constant reminders that the zero was invented in India. They need reminders about Aryabhatta. That reminder concept, that entire entire space mathematics would not exist had India not been there and invented zero. Now, I'm sure you face things like this also in your career.
See, exactly. I totally agree with you. And when I am talking about right now, we all are sitting, we are talking about Chandrayaan 2. I think right now, nothing else matter. This is the proud moment. We all are proud. Reason is, of course, there are a lot of people who are talking about, you know, there will be space debris, there will be this, there will be that. But we are not right now seeing that there is a hard work, there is an amount of hard work that have been put by, you know, all the scientists, all the people, astronomers who are, you know, looking forward. We also want our country to be on the top, whether you talk about...
Yes, and I'm sure the lecturers tomorrow, okay, now you'll create moon debris,
Yep.
And there'll be people like this. But Radhika, now I'm referring, that became an infamous New York Times cartoon. I referred to it several times in the past few days. You can see that they're depicting an Indian with a guy leke aa gaya hai,
Okay.
और अंदर बैठे हुए, smoking their cigars, and this elite space club that they talk about. This is how they look at Indians. Now, what kind of reminder that needs to send that a lot of people working in NASA, a lot of people of the smartest scientists in the globe working in CERN, doing special projects, working in the nuclear fusion project that's happening in France. India is a participant in all of these, and Indians are taking part in all of these. How much of this we need to know, Radhika ji?
See, I totally agree with you. So, when you go to Kennedy Space Center, there also we find, you know, thousands, you can say, of Indians working over there. It is all, you know, from India it is going over there. And now when you talk about ISRO, when you talk about other organization, I don't think so India is far behind in anything. And I would definitely like to mention one thing. I have seen, you know, news channels coming from, you know, these countries to cover the Chandrayaan 2, you know, promotion going on in the schools, going on in the colleges.
Yeah.
We all are excited.
Yeah, we're all excited, certainly. Gupta ji, just coming back into this conversation, I'm sure through your career, sir, you've also experienced issues like this, where because you're Indian, okay, these people come with a superiority complex. And what kind of work has it taken from the time of Vikram Sarabhai downwards, okay, to send a reminder, and how effective should that reminder be of what India stands for and will stand for in the next coming decades?
See, we have to look at it at a perspective that we must have faith in our capabilities. I will give you an example from our DRDO's efforts. You remember 4th January 2001, the first flight of our Tejas aircraft took place. After the flight was successful, our Raksha Mantri told the people that, look, I had a fax from an American company, a leading American company, and which told us, they were literally ordering us to stop this flight. The contents were something like this, that, look, gentlemen, you are the minister of a big country, you have a responsibility, the flight is going to be failing, the aircraft will crash, people will die, you must stop it now. He said, I left the fax in my office, came here, and the flight was success.
So basically saying तुम्हारी बस की नहीं है. But the reality is in saying तुम्हारी बस की नहीं है, they want to ensure कि कभी होए ना, it never happens, so that you don't rise as a power. And this is not new. This has been going on for decades, as Ravi Gupta is just telling us.
But I would also like to tell you that the reason, actually they know in their hearts that India is going to succeed. That is their biggest fear. That is their biggest worry. Because right from the beginning, we have been able to do the things at much lower cost, in much better manner. So they fear that tomorrow they will be in competition and they will lose their business.
So just a heads up, ISRO put satellites in space at 1/3 the cost of NASA. 1/3 the cost of NASA, which is why about 2 years ago we put, I think, 140 satellites in space in 1 year, which is the largest ever done by any country, because of simple market economics. We do it better, more successfully, cheaper, more consistently, period, finished. And that's what India stands for. It's very important to send out this message, and the message should come out of confidence. Sometimes we'll have super successes, sometimes we'll have failures that we learn from. ISRO's had failures in the past, when we learn from them, but we'll get better. But for these guys to be lecturing us from space debris to how to fly a jet and you'll crash it or not crash it, that era should certainly now have been gone. I'm going to thank my guests for having this very open-hearted, dil se conversation, which was very needed.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.